The next time you get a headache, you will do something almost no human in history could do. You will walk to a cupboard, swallow a small white pill, and within 20 minutes, the pain will simply fade. You will not think of it as a miracle. You will think of it as Tuesday. But for almost the entire span of human existence, that pill did not exist. Paracetamol, the most common painkiller on Earth, has only been widely available since the 1950s. For more than 200,000 years before that, when your ancestors broke a bone, lost a tooth, or gave birth, there was no cupboard, there was no pill. There was only the pain and whatever the human mind could invent to stand against it. So what did they actually do? The answer is far stranger and far more clever than just gritting their teeth. Start with the obvious assumption. We tend to imagine the ancient past as one long scream, a world of agony endured in silence where people simply suffered until they passed out or died. And for some of it, that is true. But here's what's fascinating. Your ancestors were not helpless against pain. They had a pharmacy. It just happened to be growing in the ground. Consider the willow tree. For thousands of years, healers across Sumer, Egypt, Greece, and China told people in pain to chew its bark. They had no idea why it worked. They only knew that it did. The Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian medical text written around 1500 BCE, recommends willow for inflammation and aches. Hippocrates, in ancient Greece, prescribed it for the pains of childbirth and for fever. And they were right. In 1763, an English clergyman named Edward Stone gave powdered willow bark to 50 people suffering from fever and reported the results to the Royal Society. The active ingredient was a compound called salicin. It is the chemical ancestor of the aspirin sitting in your medicine drawer right now. Your headache pill was discovered by people 4,000 years before you, chewing on a tree. But that's only half the story, because the plants did not stop at willow. In the high Andes, your ancestors chewed the leaf of the coca plant, a mild local anesthetic, to numb pain and exhaustion. Across Europe and Asia, the opium poppy was cultivated as early as 3400 BCE by the Sumerians, who called it the joy plant. Greek and Roman physicians used it to dull surgical pain and to grant sleep to the dying. In medieval Europe, surgeons soaked a sponge in opium, mandrake, and hemlock, dried it, and held it under a patient's nose before cutting. They called it the soporific sponge. It was, in effect, the first general anaesthetic, 800 years before modern surgery claimed the idea. Think about this. The knowledge was real. Trial and error, passed down across thousands of years, had built a working toolkit of pain relief out of the local plants. But there was a limit. Without dosing, without purity, without any way to measure, these medicines were as likely to kill you as to comfort you. Too much opium, and you simply never woke up. And so, when the plants ran out, your ancestors reached for something else. Something inside the skull. This is where the story stops being about chemistry and starts being about the mind. Because the most powerful painkiller your ancestors had was not in the ground. It was belief. In 2011, a team led by neuroscientist Irene Tracy at the University of Oxford, publishing in Science Translational Medicine, ran a now famous experiment. They gave volunteers a powerful opioid painkiller through a drip while applying steady heat to their legs. When the volunteers were told the drug was flowing, their pain dropped sharply. When they were told falsely that the drug had been switched off, the pain came roaring back, even though the same dose was still running into their veins. The expectation alone doubled or destroyed the effect of a real drug. This is the placebo effect, and it is not imaginary. Brain scans show that belief in relief triggers the release of your own endorphins, the body's natural opioids, chemically similar to morphine, manufactured inside you. Your ancestors could not synthesize morphine in a lab, but they could trigger it in the brain, and that is exactly what every healer, shaman, and ritual was, whether they knew it or not, a machine for producing belief. When a Greek pilgrim slept in the temple of Asclepius and woke believing the god had healed them, the relief was real. When a tribal healer chanted over a wound through the night, the ceremony itself was doing chemical work. The drumming, the words, the absolute conviction of the person treating you, all of it told your brain that help had arrived, and your brain answered by dosing you from its own supply. And honestly, what comes next is even stranger, because pain itself was not understood the way you understand it now. To you, pain is a malfunction, a signal that something is wrong to be switched off as fast as possible. But for most of human history, pain carried meaning. It was a message from the gods, a debt being paid, a trial to be passed, a part of the natural order of a life. The word pain comes from the Latin poena, meaning penalty or punishment. Childbirth, injury, illness. These were not just sensations. They were woven into a story about why you suffered and what it was for. And that framing was not weakness. It was medicine. Studies of pain today consistently show that when people believe their suffering has purpose and meaning, they report it as less severe, and they endure it longer. Your ancestors did not have paracetamol, so they built meaning instead, and meaning, it turns out, is its own kind of anaesthetic. There is one more piece, and it is the quietest. Your ancestors were almost never alone in their pain. There was no separate hospital, no private room. You suffered surrounded by the people who knew you, held by them, watched over, distracted, spoken to through the worst of it. And modern research is clear that the presence of a trusted person measurably lowers the experience of pain. The hand on your shoulder was not just comfort, it was treatment. So put it all together. Your ancestors faced pain with a real pharmacy of plants, with the chemical power of belief, with a story that gave their suffering meaning, and with the constant presence of other people. They were not silent sufferers waiting to be rescued by the modern world. They had built, across 200,000 years, a way to live alongside pain. And here is what that means for you. The next time you reach for that small, white pill, notice how alone the moment is. You swallow it in silence. You expect it to work without ceremony, without meaning, without anyone's hand on your shoulder. The pill is a triumph. It is faster and safer than anything your ancestors ever held. But it replaced something too. It replaced the ritual, the belief, and the people who used to gather around you when it hurt. Tonight, if something aches, take the pill. But maybe also tell someone. Let them sit with you, because your brain is still carrying the ancient pharmacy your ancestors relied on, the endorphins, the comfort of a trusted voice, the strange relief of not being alone. The pill treats the body. The oldest medicine on earth was never just chemical, and you are still wired to receive it.